Hey, Taylor. I am so sorry about that. The internet
Help you. Sorry, I just had a little Zoom pop up. These are what we offer, and through these items, we're hoping that you will have the opportunity to create your educational materials in an openly licensed and accessible way. So the bulk of this presentation today will be enabling the 5 R's, so retain, revise, remix, reuse, redistribute. And I promise it will be good for anyone, regardless of how new you are to OER or if you're an expert. I hope that everyone here will take away something new from this today. This is a really great example of a book. So the left is the original book and the right is a new book. The left is a book that was created on the Pressbooks platform by Rebus Community. Rebus Community is our sister organization. They're a nonprofit, and they help and support a lot of faculty and instructors and other academics produce beautiful OERs. On the right, this book was adopted by eCampus Ontario, who is a consortium in Canada. It's a consortium of a lot of different community colleges and universities in the province of Ontario. They're very big, and they've adopted this book. This book actually won a textbook excellence award, as well as they have also adopted this book into now in many different languages, and there's much more being done with this book now. And this is a very good example of how an OER can go sort of above and beyond what is possible in that of a traditional textbook, just in the sense that you can really cater to your needs, add to it, remove things, redistribute your book, reuse it. It really embodies sort of the principles of OER, and we love showing this book for that reason. So here, this is just an example of what a Pressbooks book looks like. That's always a mouthful, Pressbooks book. And Pressbooks at its core is a formatting software. So in that sense, you write on one platform, and from that platform, your book will be beautifully formatted into either a web book, which is what you're seeing here, so that your students or other readers can read it directly from the web. You can also download the book into a PDF, an EPUB, and a MOBI file. So there's so many different opportunities that you have with your book. And no matter what the modality that your students are accessing the book from, it will be equally as accessible in all formats. There's a couple of other features in here as well. So in this case, we have some accessible math. So Pressbooks supports accessible learning. We use a tool called MathJax. As you can see, there's nice things like zoom triggers. Your equation is rendered into a beautiful equation, and you don't have to have a great amount of experience in formatting math in order to learn how to use it on our platform. Amongst other interesting features such as H5P. For those who don't know what H5P is an openly licensed activity tool. It's an open source activity tool, that offers between 44 to 45 different kinds of activities. And it's a great way to add interactive elements to assess learning in your book. This is available in the web book, and it's a great way to engage your students. I personally myself studied chemistry at university, and I was going back and forth between books available online and textbooks, quantum mechanics textbooks that were written in the 70s. So it was sort of all over the place, and having one place where I could read my book and assess my courses, engage with activities, amongst other interactive features, would have been a really comprehensive learning experience for me. And I hope you feel the same way in this day and age as well. And once you're done with your book, you can distribute your book through your LMS so that it's viewable online. So all of this is possible, and I won't cover this today because that's not the topic of the presentation, but I wanted to show you that there are many different ways that you're able to share your work in terms of, redistributing your work so that it's visible to your students. And we know, especially now, it's very challenging to make people go to many different places to find exactly what they're looking for. So by having it all accessible on the LMS, it's a real treat for anyone, even though your students probably won't even recognize that it's a Pressbooks book. But regardless, it's an excellent way to get all of your material in one place. And this is our directory. I will demo our directory in a little bit, but this is connecting to the world of OER. Like I said, Pressbooks works with a lot of different educational institutions, from consortiums to, from consortiums to individual institutions, as well as places like Rebus, who, like I said, are a nonprofit that does a lot of work in the world of OER. Anyone who wants to create and develop open educational materials with Pressbooks, all of their works live on the Pressbooks directory, which is an incredible repository of all of the public books that are open for people to view, with lots of different topics and subjects and publishers and licenses. There's really something for everybody. And we will be using a bulk of this today to develop so that I can show you how you're able to remix and adapt new educational material to fit your needs. And so, like I said, we work with lots of different institutions. So this is us and the open education movement. This is a very small set of institutions that we work with. As you can see, we have some Texas universities that also work with us, Texas Tech and UTSA, as well as UT Arlington, and lots and lots of other institutions as well. And as you can see, there's lots of different boards and schools that work with us as well, which is really fantastic. So what are we going to be doing today? Obviously, all of you have read sort of the little blurb that I have that we wrote up for this conference. But if we really break this down, this session will be split into 3 parts. So firstly will be a demonstration of the Pressbooks Edu Authoring and Editing Platform. So seeing what's possible in your next project with the 5 principles of OER. So that's retain, reuse, revise, remix, and redistribute. And I'll be showing you how you can sort of, like the description said, sort of create a Frankenbook where you're able to do a lot of different things. And a bulk of that will be showing you how you can clone your book. And if you don't know what that means, I will explain when the presentation formally starts. The second part will be a sandbox session on Pressbooks Edu. So I will sort of be providing instructions for you, and you'll all be added as a user on a Pressbooks network, and all of you can create and clone your own book so that you can explore how you'd be able to create a book on Pressbooks. And at the end, I will also take questions and I will answer them. And hopefully you can leave this session today feeling like you've learned something that will be useful for you in the future. So that is a little bit about the presentation today. So I will now stop sharing my presentation. And before we get started, does anyone have any questions, any concerns? Fantastic, let's get started. I'm just going to pull up my presentation. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to demo today is our Pressbooks Directory. So like I said, this is a repository of all of the content that's been created on the Pressbooks platform. There are so many different options that we provide in terms of having your content on here. And a question that I get really frequently is, do you have to be, work with Pressbooks in order to have access to this? And the answer to that is no. So even if you leave here today and you're not really interested in using Pressbooks, all of these educational materials are available to you. And that is sort of that was one of our main goals. We wanted to make this as accessible as possible, for this to be a really big network of all the people who worked on their projects, so that they all have access to this. And as you can see, we have 2,400 books published across 96 Pressbooks networks. So these are 96 different institutions, consortiums, and organizations who published all of these books and have made them publicly available on this directory so that anyone across the web can take a look. If you're interested, there's also a take the tour button, and it sort of is a tooltip, and it'll take you all the sort of steps on how you can use this repository. So I'll copy and paste that link in the chat just in case anyone is interested in exploring that. And obviously feel free to follow along as I'm going through this demo. As you can see, there are so many different kinds of filters on the left-hand side, some metadata like licensing and subjects, and you can also filter by the network. So as you can see here, all the different kinds of networks. So if I want to look up Texas Tech, then I can say Raider Digital Publishing, because that is what their network is called. So this is a really great way to find the resources that you're looking for. There's something here for everybody. Also, Pressbooks books come in different licenses and languages and different numbers of H5P activities. You can also see whether or not this book is based on another book or if it's its own thing, if it's the original. So there are lots of different ways that you can explore on Pressbooks, on the Pressbooks Directory, and yeah, I hope you find something that you're looking for and find this to be a really useful tool. This is colloquially called our Pressbooks baby. We worked on this for a really long time and we're really proud of it. So we hope that you like it too. So with that being said, before this session, I took the liberty of finding a book that I really liked so that I could demo with it. And here I've filtered Mavs Open Press, who is UT Arlington, because we're really on theme with Texas here because we're at TCDL. So I filtered Mavs Open Press, and here are all the books that UTA has produced using Pressbooks. So there are 14 different books, and from this page, I found this book. So they have this amazing resource here. It's called Marking Open and Affordable Courses, Best Practices and Case Studies. You can see the people who worked on this. And like I showed you in my presentation, this is what our web book looks like. So this is the version in which you can read it through the web. You can see all of the information about the book here, the licensing. You can download this book into many different formats to fit your purposes, whether that's to read it as a PDF, whether that's to read it on an EPUB reader, or to, if you wanted to upload this onto another WordPress website so that you're able to remix and revise this book. There's an XML available. There's also common cartridges. There are so many different options that you have here. Sliding down, you have the table of contents, the different parts, and the chapters within it. And it's a really beautiful book. And at the end, you have more metadata, and that's the book. If you were to download this into a PDF, you would get an equally beautiful PDF that is accessible in the world of PDF, and similarly with EPUB. So that is, let's say that I now want to adapt this book. In Pressbooks, we offer a tool called cloning. And what that does is it creates an exact copy of that book onto your Pressbooks network. So in this case, what I've done is I am now on my university. So this is so-called our Pressbooks University. And we have this tool called cloning. It's this really simple interface. And all I would need to do in order to clone this book over is to copy and paste the source book, which is the original. I give my target book URL, and I give it a book title. So in this case, I can leave it optional. This is optional. If I want to leave it blank, the original will be used. And upon doing so, for the sake of time, I have already cloned this book, and all I would need to do in order to clone it again would be to fill these fields out and then click clone it. And you can see that I've already cloned this book onto my network, and it is an exact copy of the UT Arlington book that existed here. So this is a really great first step, right? To retain and to reuse. So to make your own copies and to use it in different contexts. If I now wanted to use this book for a different purpose than the one that UTA had initially intended it for, I can do so. I can do so because the Creative Commons Attribution license allows me to do so. As I can see that this is a CC BY license. So as long as the proper author is credited and the people who initially did the work are attributed somewhere in the book, I am able to, this is gives you the most amount of opportunity in OER to do what you would like with your book. And as such, this book is about OER, and you can see that this book is a CC BY licensed book, which I love to see. So from here, I can now do whatever I want with my book. So that is sort of the initial thing that I wanted to show you, which is how to clone. And from here, we'll go a little bit more into the other 3 R's of OER so that you can really make it your own. But like you can see, this is an exact dupe. And at the bottom, when you clone over books, there's also a book source that takes you back to the original book. So it's attributing the right people always. So that is a little bit about the cloning tool and how convenient it is for your project. You're definitely more than welcome to just clone over a book and keep it as is. That is also something that lots and lots and lots of institutions do. The resources themselves have a lot of value on their own, but obviously the beauty of it being that you can also add to it if you want to. So that is a little bit about cloning. So from here, let's say that you want to adapt this book to fit your needs and redistribute it onto the web. This book is, like I said, CC BY licensed, and you're able to do so. So by going up to the admin dashboard, you see that you end on the Pressbooks Authoring dashboard. So this is this is where you'll be doing the bulk of your work. As you can see, you can see the table of contents in full. You can hop into a chapter and see that you have full control over changing any part about the book. And to do the bulk of the work, you will want to hop into your organize module. So from here, you can do a variety of different things. A book is split up into 3 different sections. You can split it up into front matter, you can split it up into the body section, and you can split it into the back matter. So you can see the back matter is back here. So you have full control. If I wanted to, let's say, change chapters. So let's say that instead of preparing for implementation and mechanics, I might want to have that in stakeholders for whatever reason. I can change the chapters around. I can hop into a chapter and delete certain texts. I can highlight the text itself and create glossary terms. I can drop my cursor and create a footnote if I'd like. I can insert a footnote. And all of this is really easy to navigate around. This is, like I said, the Pressbooks Authoring and Editing Platform. As you can see, there's a lot of similarities between more commonly used tools, let's say like Microsoft Word and Google Drive. And yeah, so this is a little bit about how you can rearrange chapters, and you can also add parts, add chapters, add front matter, add back matter. So let's say that I add a chapter and I call it something really boring and I call it test chapter. I can click create. And now this chapter has been created. So now when I head back into my organize module, you can see that my test chapter now exists in my first part. And I can also move this, move it up, move it down. I can move this to fit my needs. And from within the chapter itself, there are a couple of things that I wanted to show you. In addition to the footnote and glossary, and like I said, a lot of the other common tools that you might run into on, like I said, the more commonly used platforms that we're all familiar with. There's also tables and the common tools. There's also, you can add media. So in this case, all of the media items that have already been added. So from the original book, you can see all the content has been brought over perfectly. I can also add my own media files if I'd like. So in this case, let's say that I find a picture. And I wanted to add a picture of a sunset for whatever reason. I can upload my image. And from here, I can add alt text, which is great for accessibility purposes. If you are unable to, if for whatever reason, if your image doesn't render, then the alt text will show up in place of the image. You can add captions, you can add attributions to make sure that you credit the right people. And you can also insert from URL as well. If you see something online that you'd like to insert directly from, then you can do that as well. For the sake of time, I'll just insert it directly into my chapter. You can see I now have my image. I can make it smaller, I can make it bigger. You can add as many images and videos as you would like. You can even also add, if you're a music instructor, you can add musical notation. And you could also add MP4s if it's a listening exercise, even for language classes as well. There's a variety of opportunities that you have. And sorry, I'm just submitting people from the waiting room. And you can also really easily take a YouTube video. So in this case, I'm going to copy and paste the YouTube video directly into my chapter. And from here, you have this beautifully embedded YouTube video that plays directly from the browser. It doesn't automatically go full screen. I just accidentally double tapped it if you're curious. So that is how you can really quickly include lots of different kinds of material and content into your Pressbooks book. And a question I get really, frequently is, what can you share? And you can share anything you want that is in that pertains to your book. So a question I get a lot from faculty is, how can I want to make my lectures accessible. Then what you can do is you can take your recorded lecture, upload it onto YouTube, and then from YouTube you can embed your content directly into your book, so that if your students are reading their book, then they can watch the lecture as well at the end. There's so many different ways to structure your book, and because Pressbooks is available in lots of different modalities, you can really curate your book to fit your needs. So let's say that you wanted to embed all of your lectures at the end of your book. What you can do is, if you had in this chess chapter, let's say you had 3 weeks worth of lectures that are embedded into here, but obviously YouTube videos don't play in the PDF format. So from there, what you could do is just click show and exports, turn it off, and no one will be able to see the lectures in PDFs, which won't play. But in the web version, they will be able to watch the lectures, which is possible on a web book. So there are so many different ways that you can organize and curate your book to fit your needs. And I think that's truly what's so flexible about all OERs at the end of the day, right? Because it's not just limited to a very traditional idea of a textbook, but it's more that you can create, ancillary materials. You can create lecture slides, syllabi, and or a traditional textbook if that's what you want. Or in our case, you can create this sort of, pardon me for using this word so much, maybe you guys don't like it, but a Frankenbook. I really like that terminology just because there's so many, it is truly, it's a good word that embodies all it can do. So that is how I want to show you about how you can, organize your book, structure your book, create your book, and really make it your own. For the sake of time and also to prevent overloading of your brain, I won't demo everything, but you can also do a lot more here, like add math. You can iframe content. So if you wanted to embed a map, if you wanted to embed, a Kaltura video, there's so many, anything you can iframe on Pressbooks. You can also add H5P activities. Like I said, there's this little button over here that will allow you to embed lots of quizzes and slides. Like I said, there's 44 to 45 different kinds of activity. They're also open source. As you can see, we really love working with other companies who have similar values as we do. You can also put your book in different languages. We have language and script support for lots of different languages. And we actually also work with a lot of institutions and organizations that produce their book in non-Latin script using languages. So, even beyond commonly spoken languages in North America, Turtle Island, such as Spanish and French. We also have, a publisher working with us who produces books in Gujarati and amongst other different languages as well. You can also change your appearance in Pressbooks. We offer over 20 different kinds of themes. As you can see, there are lots of different themes available for you here. You can also add your own CSS if this is something that interests you. So there are a variety of different ways that you'd be able to change your book. And I think at the end of the day, a true highlight in the world of OER is not only being able to really use the 5 R's of OER, but it's also that you can, and bringing in content from other places, you're also able to really make it fit your needs. So if that means, and you're able to change it at any time, is I think the most important part. So if one day you wake up and you think, hey, I actually really didn't like that chapter that I wrote, then you can always go back and change it really quickly and say, oh, maybe I don't want it to be all rights reserved. You wake up one day and you think, I want my book to be CC All of those are really easily changeable. You own your work, which is truly something that's so flexible. And you decide one semester that you, with another faculty's help, you'd like to create a second version of the book, then you can just as easily use the cloning tool to clone this exact copy. Let's say I've adapted this book, I've, made it really my own, and from here, I really like this book, and I want this book to remain as it is, but I would like to, produce a second edition of the book. It would be just as easy for me to go to clone a book again and either clone this book or clone the original book and adapt it from there as well. So it's really, really flexible in terms of what you're able to do. You can also change your own privacy of the book. So if you don't want your book to be visible one day, you can just set your book to private as it is already set to here, and no one will be able to see your book. So we really truly mean it when we say you own your work. You can do whatever you like with it, obviously within bounds of copyright infringement, and do the things that make you happy. Do the things that really fits your purpose. And something now that I want to show you that's really in line with that is to show you how you can bring in content from elsewhere. So going along with this cloned book, from here, if I want to, let's say I saw this content somewhere else and I want to bring it into Pressbooks. Well, in the tools menu in import, you can see that we have this, our importer here, and you can import from many different kinds of places. You can import from an EPUB, from a Microsoft Word document, from an OpenOffice document, from another Pressbooks book, or a WordPress XML. So Pressbooks, if you don't know, is built on top of WordPress. Maybe some avid WordPress users are realizing from the dashboard, from this platform itself, that it looks really familiar to WordPress. If you notice it, yes, it's built on top of WordPress. So we obviously, if you were to find content elsewhere in WordPress and you want to bring it over, that's definitely allowable, as well as another Pressbooks webbook. So you can import directly from the web as well. So from here, I found this book on Rebus Community, and I really love this book. It's called Open at the Margins. Lots of different people, 43 diverse authors whose perspectives challenge the dominant hegemony, collaborated on this book, all wrote a chapter, and there's some really, really wonderful, beautiful chapters about the world of OER. And let's say that I find a chapter in here that fits my purposes, and I'd like to bring this into my book. Well, there's a couple of ways that you can do this. So in this case, the license says Creative Commons Attribution Share Alike. I would definitely go have a look at what that means if you don't, to make sure that how you're using this book fits your needs. So in this case, I know that I can reuse this chapter. And from here, I can bring a chapter in through many different ways. So from here, I can download this into one of the copies that the importer will take. So in this case, EPUB or XML, or I can bring it directly in from the web. In this case, it's easier for me to bring it in directly from the web just because I just have to copy and paste the link. So I will do that right now. So from here, I will say web page, Pressbooks webbook or XML. I'll say import from URL. I'll copy and paste the link of the book. And from here, as you can see, now I can choose which chapters and which content I want to bring in. So I can either select all, or let's say in my case, I want to click on from open to justice. And from here, I can choose, do I want the importer to bring this into my book as a chapter or a part or back matter or front matter? I'd like for this to stay as a chapter, so I'll click chapter. And I'll say I want this content to show in web. And from here, I'll click import selection. And you'll see here that the chapter that I wanted to have brought over from the original has been brought over beautifully. I checked off show in web, so it's now showing along with the rest of the book. And I have to click, once I click on this and go to view chapter, it's been seamlessly integrated into my book. I can see the original author who wrote this book. You can see that they had content that they had included in their book, which is brought over in the exact same way. And it's just a great way to bring in content from elsewhere. I know that lots of faculty do a bulk of their work on Microsoft Word, or they started using, they got into OER on another platform, but they want to explore what Pressbooks is like. We make it really flexible so that you can, you have a lot of different options on how you'd be able to bring in content from elsewhere, even if it's not just in Pressbooks, but even for Pressbooks content, right? This book was written on Pressbooks. It makes it really easy to bring in so that you can use from here. And you can see that the author had even included an attribution so that it's really easy for us to use. And this will link me directly to the Creative Commons licensing, and I can see what I'm entitled to and what I need to follow in order for me to use this chapter. So that is a little bit about how you can import content. And from here, like I said, let's say I head back into the admin dashboard and I want to, give it some final touches before I publish this book. I can do all my work here, and then at the top, I can click public. And now what this means is that any of you can go to this link and you'll be able to see this book, access this book, read it, and really make it your own. And yeah, that is a little bit about how you can bring content from elsewhere. So from here, I've really shown you 3 sort of different things. Firstly, being the cloning tool. So the cloning tool being a tool, cloning being a process in which you can take another Pressbooks book that exists somewhere in the universe and bring the entire copy of it over and have an exact copy of that book, including all images, text, videos, like embedding, embedded material, H5P activities, amongst other things. So there's a lot of different ways that there's so much Pressbooks content out there, and you're able to create a direct clone in your Pressbooks. So that is the first thing. The second thing I showed you how to do right now is that you can directly write natively in Pressbooks. So not only from the My Books module, not only could you clone a book, you can also create a new book. So when you create a new book, you'll have an empty shell. But obviously the session being about cloning a book and remixing it, so that you also have the option to create a new book if you'd like. And then lastly, I showed you how you can import. So importing can be used all over the place. You can import into a clone book. You can import into your own book. You can import other people's content into your book. And like I said, the only restriction for all of this being that you're limited, you're bound to the license of the original work. So, and then after that, whatever content that you write on your own, that is your original work, you own, you have full control over how you share it and how you provide access for it. Some people choose to keep their content private. Some people choose to publish it so that the whole web can see it. It's really up to you. And then from here, the last thing that I wanted to show you is exporting, because what is the best part about this all is sharing your beautiful work when it's been completed. So in addition to making your book visible on the web, so in this case, like I showed you, this book is public, which means that all of you are able to see this link. So if I were to copy and paste this link into the chat, you would have full access to this book. You can read it and share it with your friends, whatever you'd like. But if you wanted to make other modalities available, so in this case, let's say I wanted to make the PDF, or let's say I wanted to make the EPUB available, I won't click on all of them just because exporting, obviously, a big text like this it's going to take a little bit of time, and for the sake of time, I will spare you the agonizing wait of the of waiting for many different kinds of formats to export. But from here, it will export, and once it's completed, it will show up down here. Someone cue the Jeopardy theme song. There we go. From here, you can click download. As you can see, now I have access to my book from here. And if I wanted to now make this available on the home page, it's very easy going into my sharing and privacy settings and click yes, I would like to share my latest export files. And from here, now, if I were a faculty member and I spent a long time remixing this book, and I now wanted to make it available to my students, I can now have this nifty download button so that your students can start reading it on the web. And if they're in transit or if they're somewhere where they don't have access to the internet, then they're able to read this on their phone, on their tablet, on their e-reader. etc., etc. And all of the different exports you make could show up down here as well. So that is a little bit about the Pressbooks authoring and editing platform. I wanted to show you all of that is possible. I know that this was very, very quick. I know that, I've been working here for a while, so it's all comes to me at an ease. But if you have any questions right now, I'd be happy to take them to avoid any sort of confusion before we head into the sandbox. But I also wanted to let you know that um, we offer Pressbooks training webinars, and we have documentation to make this process a little bit easier for you all so that it's accessible to you and you're able to use it no matter how familiar with WordPress or even tech you might be. So with that being said, I'll stop sharing my screen and I'd be happy to take any questions that anyone has before we start with the sandbox.
Amy, currently you have 2 questions right now. The first one being, does Pressbooks work with Vimeo or Panopto? Panopto. Hope I'm saying that right.
I've never heard of Panopto before. Okay, it's a software that provides lecture recording, screencasting. So on Pressbooks, we have very little restrictions. So I'll try to make this I'll try to answer this question without making it too complicated, but yes, for Vimeo. So Vimeo is, like I said, Pressbooks is built on top of WordPress. So Vimeo is actually one of the sites that WordPress themselves have allowed to be universally allowed to be accepted onto any WordPress site. So yes, with Vimeo, if you find a Vimeo video, it's like saying Pressbooks book, but for Vimeo. If you find a Vimeo video, you can directly copy and paste the link of that into your book, just like how I showed you with YouTube, and it will embed for you automatically. So that's good news. With Panopto, I've never worked with Panopto before. Panopto is unlike Vimeo or YouTube, so you will not be able to just copy and paste the link. If Panopto offers an iframe link, so an embed link, lots of different, if you go on Google Maps, I'm sure lots of people know what embedding is, but for those who don't, in lots of different places where there's content, so a video or a slide, a lot of websites will offer embed links. Embed links will allow you to embed your content elsewhere. So it's not like downloading and uploading, but rather taking that raw content and sort of framing it in your book. It will still belong to the original person, but you can view the content elsewhere. If Panopto if Panopto has an iframe link, then yes, you will be able to upload it onto Pressbooks. So that is super convenient. If Panopto doesn't offer an iframe link, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do to make Panopto's content uploadable, so to speak, or embeddable, rather. So I hope that answers your question. If you have a follow-up question, I'd be happy to answer it in the chat, and I can definitely clarify if anyone has any questions about embedding or iframing. I have a lot more knowledge on that, so you can ask me at the end as well.
Awesome.
Yes.
Oh, I was just going to say thank you for that, Amy.
Oh, of course. And secondly, it says, for faculty members who want to track and assess usage of their material, is there a good way for them to do that, especially if they're being cloned and remixed by others? That is a fantastic question. So right now, no. There's no way to exactly follow what's happening in, there's no way to exactly assess exactly who is using your book and how they've used it. There's a couple of ways that you can keep track of this, especially if they're being cloned, is through the directory. So like I said, cloning is only available within the realm of Pressbooks because our software is reading the metadata and content of another book. So what I mean by that is there's no way we could, clone a book that isn't on Pressbooks, because we wouldn't be able to read that software. So all I'm trying to say is that in the Pressbooks directory, if your book has been cloned, so for example, there's a really popular book that that is a part of the exercise that we're going to do in the sandbox, but there's a really popular book that Abby Elder from Iowa State, I believe. I always get confused between Iowa State and Iowa University of Iowa, but Iowa State. Abby Alder is sort of a champion in OER, and she wrote this book called the Oer Starter Kit, and you can see lots of different people have cloned this book. And you can see that this book has been cloned because you can see that it's sitting in the child position in the directory. And if I were to find this book, if I were to find the Iowa State original, it would have the top position. So let's say I go into Claremont's edition of this book, and from down here, I can click on here and I'd see that this is the original book. So that is sort of kind of a way that you'd be able to track who's used your book. Additionally, we also have this feature for those who have cloned a book from elsewhere under under appearance and under theme options. There is a feature called enable source comparison that we actually developed for educational purposes. And now when I save changes, I can go to my book and hop into a chapter. And at the bottom of my book, you can see I can compare this with the original. So it's the version of the original versus this book's copy right now. And this tool is developed, like I said, for educational purposes. Obviously, this is at the discretion of the person who has adopted the book. So you wouldn't be able to, as the original creator, you wouldn't be able to enforce this necessarily. But that I hope that sort of answers your question about how you'd be potentially able to keep track of and observe who is observe who has done what with your book. Obviously, if they use the importing feature, like I showed you, let's say that someone downloads your book as a EPUB and they take it elsewhere and they remix it, you wouldn't be able to tell through there. But we're hoping to expand our tool. Also, if you have a Pressbooks Edu license, you can connect your Pressbooks Edu license to, you can connect your Pressbooks book to Google Analytics. And Google Analytics could provide a little bit of insight on who's downloaded your book, how much traffic you've had, all that stuff. So I hope that answers your question a little bit. I'm also happy to take more questions about viewers on your book and how users work in Pressbooks as well. Okay. Does anyone have any other questions? I'm so used to doing it where people unmute themselves, so it's my first time using Hoova. So let me know if you have any other questions on the side. From here, I am actually going to, how about Taylor, if it's okay, let's take a 5-minute pause just because there's a lot of people in the chat. What I will do is I'm going to add all of you onto our Pressbooks demo network. So like I said, the university.pressbooks.pub network. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add all of you as a user, and I'm going to get you to all clone a book and exercise a little bit about the tools on there. And if it's possible, if everyone wants to just stick their email on in the Zoom chat. If you're not comfortable with having your email publicly available, you can message it to me privately and I'll be able to see it there. If you signed up for this session, actually, yeah, let's go with that. Taylor, how does that sound?
Amy, that sounds great.
Okay, fantastic. So if everyone can just drop if you would like to participate in the sandbox, please feel free to drop your email in the chat, and what I will do is add you as a user. This will prompt an email to be sent out to you, and you'll have to reset your password so that you are a secure user on the network. It's based on users, so there's no way to just access Pressbooks without having users, which is why I'm going to get you all to do this if you're interested in participating. So I will now mute myself and stop my video, and hopefully in 5 to 10 minutes when we return, all of you will are ready to go and I can offer more instructions then. Hi, everybody. Just wanted to hop in. I saw that there's some people hopping in and out of the waiting room, which is totally fine. Just wanted to come back and let you all know that for everyone who's included their email in the chat, I have now included you as a user. We'll wait 5 more minutes just in case, just so that you can all get your notifications and get set up. For those of you who've just joined us, if you have, we're doing a sandbox session on Pressbooks. If you want to drop your email in the chat, I'd be happy to add you as a sandbox user on a Pressbooks network, and we will go through all of that in a moment. If you're not interested, or if you're busy and you just like to watch the demo, that's totally fine as well. Feel free to stick around, or have a great rest of your day. And yeah, let me know in the chat if you're experiencing any technical issues. I'd be happy to troubleshoot them with you. So I will unmute myself again in 4 minutes. Okay, great. So I hope everyone has had a little bit of time to register. If you are having trouble, please let me know. And I would be happy to troubleshoot with you along while I am providing the sandbox demo. But I hope that for the most part, all of you have been able to gain access into Pressbooks and have been looking around a little bit. So in the sandbox exercise, we'll be doing more or less what I had just shown you in my presentation. So you will all be cloning a book. And all of you will be adding chapters. You can do what you'd like on Pressbooks. For your information, the sandbox will be open to you for 2 weeks as of today. Afterwards, it will close. So you have 2 weeks from now to really go to town with what you'd like on your on your your book and explore all that you can with Pressbooks. If you'd like a recording of a more in-depth demo that I've done for Pressbooks as well, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to send that to you so that you have more time to really explore what's happening with Pressbooks. I know that all of you are on your own, schedules, and lots of you teach summer classes, and not even outside of work as well. It's summer and spending time with your families and stuff. So I hope that between all of these resources, you'll have plenty of time to explore on your own time. So I'm going to drop a link for you in the chat. And this is the book that you'll be cloning. I chose this book because in the process of cloning, our Pressbooks API, which is in my head a fancy word for tool, there are lots of different ways. Our Pressbooks API brings in a copy of the book that already existed, in its original form. So when our Pressbooks API is pulling in all that content, it takes a little bit of time to clone. So the bigger the book, the longer it will take to clone. I'm not talking days, but I'm just saying that it might take a longer time if your book is very large. So with that being said, I will share my screen so that I can refresh you on how you can clone. So on your network, so you'll be on university.pressbooks.pub. Under my books, you will see this feature that says clone a book. From Clone a Book, click on it. And from here, what you can do is copy and paste that link that I just sent you in the chat. And you can copy and paste the source book URL. You can give it whatever title you want, and you can give it whatever book title you want. As you can see, this book has a CC BY license, so you can really go to town. In fact, this book that was cloned onto the BC3, being Butler County Community College in the Northeast, this book was actually cloned from the University of Hawaii. So this book itself is already a clone. So you can really go to town with what you want to do in this book. So all of you can follow those instructions and clone the book. In about 3 to 5 minutes, I will touch base again, and from there we can take it further. And for anyone who is just joining us, if you have not been here thus far, we are now doing a sandbox portion on Pressbooks. If you'd like to partake in the sandbox, please drop your link, please drop your email in the chat, or message it to me privately, and I'd be happy to add you onto the sandbox book as well. Hi, everyone. I hope that your cloning is going well. I will provide instructions in a minute, but we've had a lot of people join us, and I have a couple of questions in the chat. If you are new, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. We're doing sandbox sessions. So if you have a if you have an email address that you'd like to participate with in the sandbox session, please feel free to privately message me or just include it in the chat if you're comfortable with having your email known, and I can add you to the book myself. Unfortunately, you won't be able to register because it's our Pressbooks Sandbox network, but I can very easily add you. So if you'd like to participate, just put your email in the chat and we can take it from there. Okay, so I hope that everyone has had success in cloning your book. From here, you can, once you've cloned your book, you can go, you'll see that you're now at the dashboard. So let's take an example of a book that I've cloned. From here, the book that I had cloned earlier was, where is it? Oh, it was, sorry, I am now on my admin account, which is why if you're only seeing my books, that's because I have admin privileges as I work for Pressbooks. So don't worry that you're only seeing my books. That is completely normal. So when you clone your book, let's take a book that I have cloned before. So this is a decolonizing social sciences book that's written in French, which is amazing. So when you clone your book, like I had instructed in the chat, with that book, the OER training book, you will land on this interface that shows you the book. From here, you can view your book either by going on the book itself, so the second tab next to my books, which tells you which book you're on. You can either go to visit the book, which will take you to the home page of the book. You can go back. You can modify your book. So this is where you'd be able to, oh, I don't think you have that option. Sorry, my bad. So from visit your book, you can explore the book and see how it would look if you were a reader of the book. So the visiting the book feature is very useful because the admin aspect of the book alone wouldn't really tell you how your book looks to others. And from there, this isn't a great book that I've chosen because it's entirely in French. So while I can read French, I know that is not a common thing. So I will choose an English book that I have cloned before. So this is another book that I've cloned in the past. There we go. That makes more sense. Now all the buttons are in English. So like I said, you could go visit the book, and from the admin dashboard itself, from here, you can hop into organize. And a couple of exercises that you can practice is moving up, moving down your chapters, reorganizing your chapters. You can add chapters. There's many different ways that you could add chapters and reorganize them. So you can see that there's buttons underneath the sections themselves. So you can see the add chapter button on the table of contents. And you can also see the add chapter button on the left-hand side. And you can also see that you can hop into chapters up top here and click add new. So there are lots of different ways that you can set this up. I see I have a question in the chat. Okay, I have another user who's interested. If you haven't been here before, please send me your email in the chat and I'll add you to the sandbox. So that is a little bit of what you can explore while you're in the sandbox by creating a chapter, adding in content. For the person who asked me about Vimeo, this is a perfect opportunity to try out Vimeo, see if you're, and copy and paste the Vimeo link that you have and paste it into your chapter and see how it looks in your eyes and play it directly from the web itself. You can add images. So all of you have your own individual copies and all of you will have the liberty of going in and testing all of these features out yourself. Another thing that you could also try is the other things that I showed you. So for example, would be to go into the tools menu and to go down to import and add in content yourself. So that would be using the different import tools. So what I'll get you to do now is to go, I will copy and paste the link of this in the chat. In the meeting. And now what you can do is go to this link and have the importer set up on your book. So navigate to Tools and Import on your book that you cloned. And from there, what you can do is do a couple of things. As you can see on the Oer Starter Kit book that I have here that I just linked, you can copy this in as an EPUB, or actually better yet, what's easier is to go down, select Web Pages or Pressbooks Webbook, copy the link of this book, and import from URL. And from here, you can begin import. And our importer will draw in all of the chapters, and you can choose which chapters you'd like to have in your book. So in this case, I'll just say these 2 chapters, but depending on who you are, where you are, you can choose however many you want. You could even choose to click on the whole thing if you'd like to bring over this entire book into this book, and click on a couple and click import, and you'll be able to bring in those chapters. So that is the next exercise that I'll get you to do. And we'll wait about 5 to 10 minutes while everyone sort of navigates around, does that. In the meantime, I will drop a couple of tutorials and guide chapters in the chat so that you have an easier time if you don't remember exactly what I had said during the session while I was giving my presentation. You can also watch it and learn again on how you can do it. Okay, so I've dropped a couple of links in the chat, have added a couple more people to the book, so I hope that this is helpful. And like I said, I'm not getting any questions in the chat, so I'm hoping that it means that all the instructions have been fairly straightforward. So from here, I wanted to show you a couple of other things that I didn't show you during the presentation just for the sake of time, but it looks like we're actually doing pretty good in terms of keeping on time and making sure that we're covering all the things that are absolutely necessary. So from here, I'll show you a couple of fun things that you can take the liberty of doing. So I have from here, I can go into appearance in your book and you can click on themes and you can explore lots of different themes that you have available to you. So on here, if you would like to, change it to Malala is our newest theme. I love Malala. They're all named after authors, as you can see. We're a bunch of we're a bunch of keeners, and we love making things in a certain way. I don't know if you can notice. And now when I go into visit my book and go into my book, you can see that certain typefaces look a little bit different than the original. So the original that we tend to use is McLuhan. And I've changed it to a different theme, so you can do this at any point. We also have theme options. You can explore, changing text box colors and changing your page sizes and the margins on your pages. All of that is available to you and you can explore for your book. You can also add in your own custom styles if you'd like and explore. If you're great at CSS, we don't really offer support using CSS, but it's there if you'd like. You can export your book into many different formats to see how it pertains to your book. You can also include book information. I know this is a lot more than what I'd covered during the presentation, but I just wanted to go through a couple of the modules on the left-hand side, which are really frequently used. So the general book information includes title, short title, as well as all of the metadata information. So publication date, you can add a cover image, add subjects. All of that is available to you. And then you can also, like I said, export your book, which is very common after importing. Now you can export, you can see what theme you're using and explore on there. And the last thing that I wanted to show you is that you can make your book public, like I did earlier. This is on the organize module. So like I said, private means that this link is not available to anyone other than you. Public means that it's available to everybody. So if you want to show off what you've done in your sandbox book to a colleague or to your partner, whoever, your friend, anyone who you'd like, then you would be able to just click on public and send the link to someone and you can get their feedback on how your book looks. And little things like that. There's so much options that you have and you have a full 2 weeks to explore. And that is all about what I wanted to show you today. I'll now hop into the Q&A session. Taylor, if that's okay. I don't know if I have any questions in Whova. I haven't checked in a little bit. I don't think so. And oh goodness, this is my first time using Whova. Taylor, I see you've been doing a bulk of the work for me in the chat. I'm so sorry. I've been talking about this chat the whole time and I was on Zoom. There are a couple of things that I wanted to make aware to you. During the sandbox period, you will obviously have access to your book. If you want to attend a live session to find out more about how you can remix and revise, you can, I will write it actually in Whova this time. You can head over to our website, and these are free. They're available for you to attend. You will get a much more in-depth training on Pressbooks. I hope that today's session has been useful regardless, but they're available to you if you'd like to explore more in your sandbox book. And like I said, I think I had linked to the directory at the very, very top. Yes, Taylor very kindly pasted it in for me in the Whova chat. That is available to you regardless of whether or not you use Pressbooks. So if you want to ever use any of the content that is openly licensed and available on there, that is at your discretion and is openly available to you all. So I hope that this was a very helpful session. Thank you so much to Taylor for moderating it. I will stick around for questions, but otherwise I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amy. This was, man, I can't wait to go and watch the recording just to like really take my time with all of this and really grasp it. And I'm super happy that we have 2 weeks of the sandbox. That's really awesome. So thank you for
of
that.
course.
For everybody else who is still with us, of course, please feel free to unmute yourselves and talk with Amy if you have any questions, or of course use the Huba Q&A. And also, side note, Amy, it's totally okay using Zoom or Huba. We never made that clear, so it's all good. I think we all got the information. But for everyone else, thank you all so much for joining us today. I would like to encourage you to join us for our upcoming TCDL sessions as well. And please take a look at all of our poster presentations. Those are really great. And I also encourage you to participate in our poster scavenger hunt. You can take the quiz online, and I will paste the link in chat right now for you. Posters scavenger hunt. There you go. And finally, TDL is looking to gauge interest in forming a new member group around research integrity. This is building on the success of our brief research integrity workshop series back in February. We have a survey for you to take, which will help us iron out some details around this group. I'll paste the link into chat, and everyone is welcome to take it as well. And that is all I have for everybody. I encourage you again to take a look at the posters, the scavenger hunt. Be sure to take time for yourselves and take breaks. I know these next 3 days are going to be jam-packed, so be sure you're taking care of yourselves as well. And thank you again, Amy. This was so very great.
I had so much fun, and this is such a great first time at TCDL. I can't wait to attend again next year.
Oh yeah, this is great. Your session was great. You did a wonderful job. And then hopefully, next year we can have an in-person event as well as an online component. So maybe we'll see you there.
Yeah, I was this year when I was signing up for this. I was like, oh, maybe, but obviously not this
maybe
year.
One day.
Maybe one day. Yes, I'm excited to go to Texas one day. So
yeah.
Thank you so much, Taylor. And I hope everyone has a great rest of the day.
All right. Bye, everyone.